Welcome to the continuing legal education presentation of eDiscovery Primer, What You Need to Know and Why. I am the presenter, Aaron Cronin, and I will be your guide through what can be a daunting topic with a lot of moving parts that many attorneys are either consciously or unconsciously trying to avoid. So we're going to take a look at this step by step in a way that I hope is digestible and that will be able to stick and give you a little bit more comfort in moving to the next step and in adapting to a world that is almost completely digital at this point when it comes to almost every issue. So I'm going to have some illustrative examples and hopefully some concrete uses that you can implement as you come out of this. I graduated from law school in 2000 from UC Hastings, and I believe we were the last class to actually touch books for book research. At that point, they made us do both. We had to learn how to do book research, and then we got to use the electronic tools. After us, I think they just went straight to teaching you how to use the electronic tools. It was a good example of how superior digital research was, or the digital tools were, over the analog paper. There's still something to be said for holding on to paper and reading it. I still feel that way. Like I absorb things differently with having some sort of spatial relation to where things are on a page. But that said, the process of actually searching for terms, finding those terms, digging into references, linking to other references, shepherdizing, all of that becomes so much more effective and faster when you're dealing with electronic records. Not to mention the fact that you don't have to maintain an entire library, a fortune's worth of a library in every single law office to pull off this research. So it's a great leveling tool. When I graduated, the .coms were just starting to fail in 2000, and so that was changing the landscape quite a bit. But what ended up resulting was we ended up with a lot of residual impact. The internet really got its feet around that time, and we started seeing that email became ubiquitous for most communications because it's a better tool. It's faster. You have a record that is searchable. So businesses and most other use cases started implementing these digital records for communication. And that started definitely changing the landscape of how litigation was handled. We were not having to just sift through paper anymore. But at that time, we were still printing to paper. So the firm that I first worked at didn't even have computers. So to point to the fact that attorneys are some of the last ones to adapt to new technology, is that we didn't get computers on our desk until 2002. And up until that point, I was just doing dictation into a machine, and then my assistant would type it up. And then I'd have to review paper, and they were the only ones with computers. So, there's something to be said about maybe the attorney's billable time being transitioned, where now I spend a lot more time writing things, probably actually crafting words and editing myself. But there's a lot of things about this transition that have been beneficial to businesses, and especially now with COVID and having to go remote, I now transitioned. My business is almost completely digital, and my office is like 90% virtual. So I came out of, I did deal with some technological issues coming out straight into litigation. I dealt with peer-to-peer file sharing, but I'm by no means some sort of technical guru. I don't have a technical background, but I've always enjoyed the objectivity of it. So there's something about the schematics and these Venn diagrams of where data might be that I found very interesting, and that drew me into working in electronic discovery. Around 2006, electronic discovery became there was a sea change. We had some major cases involving electronic evidence that changed the face of how litigation works, especially at the federal level. And it's been trickling down to the state level ever since. So we're in a position now where it is virtually everywhere. And now I'm going to make my case to you for why you need to know about eDiscovery. So first we're going to talk about why eDiscovery. Then we're going to go through the workflow of eDiscovery so you can kind of visualize the overview of how it works. I imagine much of it you understand, but there's some niche elements of it that I think if you're more comfortable with will give you a lot more leverage when you're dealing with it. Then we're going to go pretty hard into RFPs, because that is where I think the real gold is. The RFPs are really a strong foundation and jumping off point for your litigation and give you incredible leverage in discovery if you do it right. Okay, so let's talk about why eDiscovery and why it's really important that you stop hiding from it and we start looking into it.